Hi, I'm Hemant.
This is Jessica.
We're here for the Friendly Atheist podcast.
Hi.
If you like what we're doing, go to patreon.com/
We really nailed this intro.
We'll figure this out at some point.
Just some money.
Patreon.com/Friendly Atheist podcast. Thanks for listening.
We're so close to making Hemant watch Star Wars. We can make it happen together.
One of these days.
It's going to be amazing.
We have a bunch of stories we want to get to from the week. But first,
we need to talk about what we're drinking tonight, because this is a really big night, you guys. Hemant and I were talking about where we were going to record, my place or his, and he said my place, and then he said, single email, all caps, I bought wine. And it was just like a really big moment in my life, because usually he has Mike's Hard Lemonade here. But Hemant, go ahead and tell us the story of you buying wine.
I went shopping, and I'm thinking, what would Jessica drink? And then I totally...
did the opposite thing
ignored that question and then bought the cheapest Riesling I could find.
It's a Yellowtail Riesling, which listen, it's wine in a glass. I'll drink it. But, I mean, are we 6-year-old women with ice cubes in our wine? I don't know.
The sad part is I have no idea what the distinguishing things are between brands and types. I just know, Riesling, I can drink
Listen, you
that.
know I love a cheap wine.
Done.
Riesling is sweet as fuck. It's going to be great. Thank you, Hemant. Thank you for inviting me into your home to record with this lovely $6 bottle of wine.
It's either that or the baby's milk somewhere here.
Oh, gross,
You can have whatever you want.
Wait, I'm going to have my first sip.
I hope it's good. I don't...
It's warm.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, just point of reference. Do you know that white wine's supposed to be cold?
No.
Okay.
Oh, it's supposed to be cold?
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I haven't.
Oh, bless your heart. Okay.
It wasn't in the fridge or anything at the grocery store.
Well, just talk about the news.
All right. Here's the story here's the one that just bothered me for so many reasons.
Okay.
And it spurred a lot of discussion online. It involves this senior in high school. Her name is Maddie Runkles, and there's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. She is a student in Maryland. Mm-hmm. She goes to a place called Heritage Academy. It is a private Christian school. A lot of kids do that.
Sure.
Might be their parents' decision. Not a big deal. Whatever. She's a good student, as far as I could tell. Like grade point average-wise, she's a good, strong student. And as happens for many high school students every now and then, she got pregnant at some point in her high school world.
Okay.
And this is kind of where the conflict happens, because as you might expect...
I'm going to hate this, aren't I?
I don't know. No, not really. I don't know.
Okay.
At a Christian school, guess what their policy is on pregnancy.
Bang. Oh, don't.
Yes, don't bang. Obviously, they're totally abstinent only. They're not doing like comprehensive sex.
So obviously they're anti-abortion.
They are anti-abortion somehow. I don't.
But they're also anti-premarital sex.
Yes.
So I bet this girl's not in a super great place with her school.
There's your conflict right there.
Right.
Because yes, they have these rules that it's weird to apply them to like teenagers.
Right.
But yes, they are pro-life, and they are pro-abstinence. Mm-hmm. And this girl obviously broke the abstinence rule.
Right.
So the question is, what should she do? Or in this case, what should she have done? And what she chose to do, as the school you would think wanted her to do, she kept the baby.
Okay.
She is still pregnant right now. She hasn't delivered the baby yet, so that's where she is.
Do we know, is
here.
she keeping the baby? That's
yes,
germane,
she is keeping the baby,
okay.
And she is visibly pregnant. I don't know when the baby's due, but graduation is actually taking place. I think maybe by the time we release this podcast, they will have had their graduation,
so it's
like this weekend.
Friday night, what, the 25th?
Yeah, sure. The 26th, yeah.
Oh, it's 26th.
So I think they're either having graduation this week, maybe it's next week.
Okay.
But what the school said to her, and this is where the problem came, they said,
I saw this headline.
We don't want you walking across the stage. They're not going to let her graduate with her classmates.
She's going to be in a fucking gown. Nobody can see that shit.
Right? They don't want her to graduate because they don't want to celebrate her sin.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah. So
are you...
she'll get her diploma. She did everything she needed to do. The school was adamant about saying this.
School, you're so brave and noble. You're giving her a diploma because it's literally like not feasible to fucking flunk somebody for no specific.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And here's what the conflict part was. Like, had she quietly aborted the baby, as I'm sure many teenage girls do and have done and will continue to do, they probably wouldn't have known about it.
No.
And she would have been able to walk across stage without problem. No one would care. because this stuff happens in private
Sure.
all the time. She followed their rules.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Well,
yes, she had sex.
She did break a pretty big one.
After she broke that one,
Yeah.
she kept the baby.
Yeah.
And the question is, if you're pro-life, what do you do with her? Like, yes, she screwed up in their view with the having sex bit.
Yeah.
But that's done with now. So what do you do with her now?
Well, and I think that's a pattern we see a lot of. How's your wine? I think it's a pattern we see a lot of, and I feel like it comes often from the right, often from the religious right, of instead of dealing with like what's actually happened, so teen pregnancy or whatever, like people in gangs or drug use or whatever, their solution is, well, you just shouldn't have done that in the first place.
Right.
And don't
Like,
you
that
feel
doesn't
like
help me now.
That's a thing that like I hear time and time again of like, oh, well, I can't afford to feed my kid. Well, I shouldn't have another kid.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
in
that's
the
not
meantime,
terribly helpful for me and my human child who does need to eat a couple times a day. So I think this is a really, really, and I use good loosely, but good example of that kind of thing of like, okay, well, you can't go back in time and make her not have had sex. And she did what one would hope they would do, or what a Christian school would hope they would do.
which is to keep the
Which
baby.
is to keep the baby and whatever. It's this sort of policing of morality, obviously. But shocker, I feel like we see it a lot with like women, of policing what women do and what they think. Because I bet if the father goes to that school, I bet he's like trotting his fucking ass across that stage.
It was a moot point because I don't think the father goes to the school, and he wasn't really a part of any of the coverage. I hope I have this right. From Maddie's perspective, she said he's not really going to be a part of the baby's life or whatever, which is irrelevant to our discussion here. But it's not like he goes to that school, so we don't know what the school would have done with him, too.
I have a pretty good idea what they would have done. Because, okay, so, and
yeah.
Say the couple, Maddie and
what's his
the
name?
father, we're going to call him Bob. Mm-hmm. Say Maddie and Bob. Oh, did you watch Twin Peaks last week? You don't watch TV.
I don't watch TV.
Jesus. So Maddie and Bob both go to the school, and it's known, they're dating. It's known that he's the father. Mm-hmm. So they know he's the father. Presumably I can't imagine they could justify preventing him from walking because he's not visibly pregnant. But he was still complicit, right?
Right.
So what if Maddie was planning on giving up the baby? So realistically, they both had kind of equal investment in this pregnancy. Like after this, neither are going to be parents. Is that the same moral thing? Like it just seemed, I don't know if that's even a salient point, but it's just a frustrating thing of, fuck those guys.
Well, and a lot of pro-life groups have spoken out about this, saying, okay, we get it, she shouldn't have gotten pregnant, but now that she is, this school is making a huge mistake by basically shaming her publicly, by not letting her walk across that stage. She announced this, by the way. That was her decision, but she announced this to the school, basically saying, look, I made a mistake, but I am keeping the baby. I just want you all to know, since you're probably going to ask. But the school's making a mistake by basically shaming her for keeping this baby.
To do what's right. So what's that going to do if you're encouraging your kids to be pro-life and anti-abortion? Yeah. How is that setting an example for... I would think, okay, she made a mistake. This is a very quote-unquote Christian thing to do, right? She made a mistake, but she's atoning for it and she's doing the right thing. We, as a community, should gather around her and support her and give her the community and the support she needs.
And that is what every pro-life, the Christian groups said. Let's gather around her and help her out.
People aren't pro-life because that shit doesn't happen in real life. You're 16 or 17 or 18, you're pregnant, and the father isn't around, your parents aren't supportive, and your community shuns you. What? Of course. Like,
the school is playing into every stereotype people have about pro-life people, the negative ones.
They're not coming across looking particularly good.
They're all about abstinence, but the second you have and you keep that baby, they don't want to help you.
I know the stats exist of like abstinence-only education versus...
comprehensive sex ed.
Thank you. That's the official word.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know off the top of your head, are there stats regarding like Christian private schools, Catholic schools, things like that, and a pregnancy rate versus a public school?
Definitely don't know off the top of my head, but I don't know.
I think that'd be an interesting
I don't know if it's any better or worse.
Right. I mean, I'd be curious to see that. Anyway, that's a bummer. I
and
wish
Maddie,
this young
the
woman
student,
well.
she even said, she's quoting here, honestly, that makes me feel like maybe the abortion would have been better.
Sweet.
Then they would have just forgiven me rather than deal with this visible consequence. And she's totally
Holy
right.
shit.
She's totally right.
I hope she... this is a terrible thing to happen to her. And by that, I mean the school thing, the pregnancy, it's her decision if that's a blessing or a curse or however she wants to look at it. But I do hope this turns into something positive for her. I hope that her story gets enough traction that like she gets a scholarship or gets the help she needs or gets support, because this is a shitty situation.
For what it's worth,
the least Christian thing I've ever heard of.
I haven't heard anyone saying she doesn't have a good support network.
Yeah,
like she has her
I'm
family,
extrapolating.
and I think her friends are fine. She is going to go, I should say, to Bob Jones University, which is uber conservative Christian college.
Oh, honey.
Like they'll be fine with her keeping the baby and having the baby. That happens to people.
Yeah,
but she's
I'm definitely
not.
extrapolating.
She's still going to be in
about
that
it.
bubble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. Yeah, I'm with you. I would love to know what happens like 5 years into the future. I think one of the things that really bothered me about this story is the whole idea that we joke about this, and we say this seriously too. For the evangelicals who are hypocrites and stuff, they're really, what they have a problem with isn't sin. It's visible sin. So if she was pregnant, but the baby wasn't showing, they might have let her walk the stage. If she had had the abortion, like she said, they might have forgiven her and walked the stage. But there's also all those instances of like, you know, love the sin or hate the sin when it comes to LGBT people. They will go out of their way to say, no, if you are gay, that's fine. But if you get gay married and you celebrate it,
Gay married.
whatever, then you're a problem.
Right, you can be gay, just don't act on that.
How many Christian evangelists have had like affairs behind the scenes, but nothing happens to them? They're doing just fine.
Right.
But like Ted Haggard got caught in his sex scandal, but it was so visible in the public eye, so he had to lose his job.
Well, and it's a very it's a very look the other way sort of mentality of like, as long as you're putting on the airs and
show.
you're saying the right things and you're coming to church in your hat.
The Stephen Colbert, the John Oliver televangelist bit.
Yes.
Because they scam you behind the scenes, but it's under the radar.
Right.
So they don't care.
Well, and we kind of touched on this last week, I think, about how, you know, people say that I swear too much and they have a problem with that. But like, would you rather me like sound really nice and sound really quote unquote proper, but like say shit that isn't genuine or pertinent, or it just sounds kind of sweet and ultimately has nothing behind it? Or is the bless your heart Southern thing of like, I'm saying something nice to you, but it's got venom in it? Like it's this sort of like, what you show to many people is more important than really who you are and what you say. It's just how you say it and how you look when you say it.
And speaking of that, I once heard a Christian pastor give a talk where he opened up kind of the sermon by saying something, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. You know, there are kids who are going to bed tonight hungry. There are like millions, he gave a statistic, there are millions of kids going home, going to sleep, starving in Africa because they can't get a fucking meal. And what's pissing me off is that there are those of you in the crowd who are angrier that I said the word fucking than you are at the fact that they are starving.
Oh my God.
Right? It was good.
Oh my God. What's his name?
I don't know. It was a while ago. It was a long time ago.
But
that one stuck with me. That was a good point.
You know, Tim Minchin?
Yeah.
He has the Fuck the Pope song.
Yes.
And it's that.
It's that.
You guys, if you haven't listened to Tim Minchin, first of all, where have you been? He's a genius. Second of all, he has a song called, is it called?
He sang it at the Reason Rally.
He did. That was actually my
that
first
angered
exposure.
a lot of people, which is
really
hilarious because
did.
that proves his point.
And he literally says like the thesis statement in the song, because it's just like literally the song is like, fuck that motherfucker, like over and over and over. In the end, it's something about like, if you're more mad that I keep saying fuck than you are about like what the Pope stands for and what the Catholic Church does, except for it rhymes and was better. Also, dude, get into Tim Minchin. White Wine in the Sun is my favorite Christmas song.
That is
also,
a
we're
good
drinking
song.
white wine at night.
Hey, we are. Warm white wine.
So gross.
And by the way, going off of the hypocritical thing too, like they always talk about like, yeah, women are equal in the church too. But lately, there are
I
more.
almost did a spit take in the
I
mic.
know. There are more female evangelical bloggers who are criticizing the church for a lot of its
good
stances.
For them.
And I've seen so many articles in Christian media like, what do we do about these women who are speaking out? It's
Oh
like,
my God, how do we shut them up?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
We need to do our duty.
So anyway, that was, I have to say, it could not have been easy for Maddie Runkles, that student, to say, I will be glad to talk to the media about this, because the New York Times posted about this.
Incredibly brave. Incredibly brave.
I think if I understand the history of this story, they didn't want to go public with it. They wanted to settle this in-house with the school, the family.
Oh, the family.
Maddie's family. And when the school decided, no, you're not crossing the stage, they're like, all right, we're getting the media involved then.
So do they have a, I guess a stance is how I'd put it? Are they saying
The
like...
school?
No, I'm sorry, the family. Like, what's their motivation for going to the press? Is just say, like, this is bullshit and we want people to know about it? Is that sort
they
of
know that in their view, yes, Maddie made a mistake in getting pregnant, but if this is a Christian school that we are sending our daughter to, how dare they shame her basically for keeping the baby? That seems to go against everything they stand for. I think that's where they're coming from.
Good
on
for
this.
them.
So yeah, interesting story. It's something people are still talking about after it aired.
But doesn't it? Not to be an asshole about it, but doesn't it kind of feel a little like live by the sword, die by the sword? Like,
yeah, you went to the Christian school. What'd you think they were going to do?
Yeah, it's not. I'm not victim blaming here, but there is just sort of like, you know what they believe. They're pretty shitty all around. It's sort of like, it's fine. It's the same like GOP thing. Like, we can bash gays all you want until I have a son who's gay, and now we can be like.
When it happens to us.
When it happens to me, and I'm a grade A student, and grade A student, is that how you say it? An A student?
I gotcha. I mean, no, but that's a fair point. Like, what did they think was going to happen? But, okay, now that they're there, and they would, I think even in their head, they're thinking, well, if we make a mistake, surely a Christian school would be more forgiving about it than a public school or something.
Nah.
I wonder what would have, I mean, if she had gotten pregnant when she was a student at Bob Jones next year, I think she very well could have been expelled for it because she would have broken the rules there.
I was going to say, what if she got pregnant and had the kid like before she graduated? Could she have walked then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. The school
is it just because she's actually visibly pregnant?
That's what it sounds like. The school has issued not an apology. They're not taking.
Of course not.
They're not backing down from their decision
of course not.
yet. They haven't said we were wrong. We will let her cross the stage.
Yeah.
They haven't done that. What they tried to do is release a statement saying, here's where we're coming from on this, but it doesn't make any sense.
Is the paper just a picture of their own asshole?
Should have been.
That's pretty good. Good job, Jessica.
Nicely. Nice. All right, here's another story for you. Ark Encounter, the Noah's Ark theme park in Kentucky.
Are we gonna fucking talk about this again?
Here's why. They're coming up on their 1-year anniversary. And so it seems like it's a good time to kind of reassess.
Has it only been... I'm thinking of the Creation Museum.
Yeah, Creation Museum's been around for a long time.
Creation Museum is in Tennessee?
That's in Kentucky, too. But I can't remember how long that's been around. It's close to a decade, if not a decade.
Kentucky this summer. Maybe I should pay one of those things a visit.
You should if you haven't gone. I'm not joking. You should. If any of you are listening and you're close to Williamstown, Kentucky, or wherever the Creation Museum is, it's expensive, but it's kind of worth it just so you could see it firsthand.
How far is Louisville from... What's it called? Williamstown?
Williamstown is where the Noah's Ark one is, and the Creation Museum, I can't remember the city. I can look that up. But they're not too far away from each other. It's not a bad thing to go check it out. I've said that about like evangelical megachurches too. If you've never been to a service, you should go. So just so you know what so many millions of Americans experience on a weekly basis, and you should know how the Creation Museum works.
So one of my best friends lives in Louisville. I'm going to visit her this summer.
Make a side trip.
If we make a side trip, can I record a podcast with my friend Leslie?
Do it.
We're so obnoxious when we're together. She's me, but smaller and louder.
Oh my God.
She was the only other English major dance minor at Ball State University, so we were best friends.
That is awesome. Yeah, do it. It'll be interesting.
It can be on our Patreon thing because we shouldn't unleash this to the public. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So, Ark Encounter is coming up on a year.
Yeah. God damn it.
So the question is this.
Is it good? No.
Is it good? No. They asked Williamstown, this city, like, let us build our giant park on your land,
Because it's going to bring tourism.
And this is years ago. This isn't 1 year ago when it opened. This is 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember writing this.
Whenever this was a theory.
I remember when I started writing for the Friendly Atheist in 2012, the building of the Ark Encounter got delayed because there were floods. And
I don't think that was this one, but that was another
There's
one.
another Ark Encounter?
There are other Noah's Ark replicas out there.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
It's all good. So yeah, this thing has been up. They asked Williamstown, like, let us build here, but because we will bring you tourism, we will have jobs, thousands of jobs.
Literally $9 an hour.
They said they will bring jobs in tourism. It'll be good. But in return, they wanted, like any business would, they want breaks. They want a deal. And that's not weird. Any company would say, you want us to come to your town? Tell us what you're going to offer us.
I mean, that's how movies work. That's why everything's being filmed in Atlanta right now, because they have excellent tax breaks.
Exactly.
I don't know why that's a thing I know.
Yeah, so this is why they wanted to do it. And Williamstown said, well, we're not doing too well right now as a city.
Sure.
We could totally use this, is what they kind of agreed. Without getting into too much of the nitty-gritty, because it gets complicated, they said, look, you could build on this land. We will give you a lot of the land for a ridiculously, virtually nothing price.
Okay. God, I hope they tax it at least.
They, obviously, famously, they got a incentive from Kentucky that said, depending on how much attendance we have in the sales, a portion of the sales tax we would pay to the state, we get a cut of it back, up to $18 million over 10 years. When they said the jobs, they will have jobs. They have over 3,000 jobs, or at least that's the expectation. But only after the fact did Answers in Genesis say, oh, but you have to be a Bible-believing, young earth creationist Christian.
That's right.
Which is why people didn't like the tax break from Kentucky.
Yeah.
You're discriminating.
Sounds hella illegal.
So the jobs didn't really work out, as they said, because it only applied to people like them. But, okay, let's look outside that for a second. Has this helped Williamstown? Is Williamstown, because that's a clear secular way to judge whether this thing helped the city. And it turns out, as far as we know, it has not worked out for the city of Williamstown or Grant County, which it's in. And this is what's interesting, because I think Ken Ham's defense would be, it's only been a year. We haven't done everything.
Which isn't, it's a fair thing.
And this is almost...
But I'm sure they had to have projections, right? They had
projections. They said, well,
and have they fallen short of those projections?
We don't know, because we don't know the attendance numbers yet. They haven't released those publicly. Okay. We don't know how much money they're taking in at Ark Encounter.
So how do we know that it's not?
What they're judging it on is to say, how are all the businesses in the community doing? Some of them, this was an interesting story that was in some local papers and stuff. The mayor of Williamstown, and make sure I get this, his name is Rick Skinner. His family owned a furniture business for decades and decades. That business is shutting down. This is the mayor's family-owned business. There's lots of reasons it's shutting down. I buy my furniture at IKEA or online or whatever. So yes, the economy's not good for that business, but he was kind of hoping well, if all these people are coming by and moving here, I would do better.
Yeah.
It's not. A lot of hotels are not seeing a lot of... It's not like there are no vacancies every night. And it's not like the food establishments are having a ton of people either. And here's kind of a chicken and the egg problem, because Ark Encounter is saying, well, you need to build up the city and build the restaurants and build more hotels, because you got to make it a destination so that families can come to Ark Encounter,
but you can't
then they
justify
can
new
go
construction
elsewhere.
if you're not seeing...
Right. So the city's saying, well, you're not bringing in people, Ark Encounter, so why are we building these things? So there's a theoretical battle over whose fault this is.
And I think it's interesting that Ken Ham said, oh, it's only the first year, which is a legitimate argument about why the business isn't turning a profit. That's completely understandable. That's generally how businesses work. They don't draw profits for a long time. But one would think that within a year, that first year...
Shouldn't you know something? And I would think first year for Ark Encounter is going to be the most successful year.
What are they thinking is going to happen next year? that is going to drive attendance up.
This
Like
is
if
not
you
a-
opened it, it's done. It's not like year 2 you're like doing a big addition. Like this is your whole shtick, dude.
Yeah, unlike a real museum,
What
the
is
exhibits
it?
don't change.
Is it-
Like you don't have to go back
Is it
twice.
a museum or is it a theme park?
Well, it's not a theme park because there are no rides or anything. It's
So it's just
it's
like
literally
a boring.
here's how
Trump.
Noah could have done it. That's kind of it. Which even if you're Christian and you believe that stuff, it's like once you've gone once, what else are you going back for?
Yeah, like
And
the
Kenham-
Creation Museum, I get the draw. It's not something obviously I'm interested in, but like I get, okay, like I can pretend my views are scientific for a second. But it would be like if, no, I don't know. Like I'm just thinking, it makes me think of like in Boston, there's that like Freedom Trail that you can just like walk through and it's really cool. I've done it a
Yeah.
couple times. I really enjoy it, but it's not like if they charged $30 to like just walk around and look at things, I'm not going to be super thrilled about that.
Right.
That
And so
wasn't a
at
great
least,
comparison. I just
at
wanted to talk about
least
the
if
fact
the
I've been to
city
Boston.
had other things at night,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. So we go to the Ark Encounter in the day, but then we have all this other stuff to do, and it's not working. I'll give you actual
And who the
quotes.
fuck is going to Kentucky on vacation? No offense. That's not
That's-
true.
well,
that's
that's-
not fair because I have literally gone to Kentucky on vacation, so
You're going again,
I am.
kind of. Well,
Louisville's a great town.
this is kind of the point, though. They were saying, look, we're not doing well with tourism. All the more reason to bring in Ark Encounter from the county's perspective.
Or diversify what your profits.
But it hasn't worked out. There's a guy, his title is Judge Executive, Steve Wood, but he said Grant County still has the same small number of non-chain restaurants and hotels that it did last December. They also voted to allow bars. Like, this was a dry county,
shit.
and they allowed alcohol, mostly saying so we could build these restaurants and more
Yeah.
people could come and have
Dude,
a drink.
if I'm spending the day at Ark Encounter, you know I need a bar at the end of the night.
And he said, I'm shocked, I'll be honest with you. We were told the vote in favor of alcohol sales would bring restaurants, particularly with the Ark. It hasn't. So the city and county, they are not doing well.
Yeah.
Ark Encounter is still planning to do expansions. They want to build more stuff. They want to build ancillary things that have nothing to do with Noah's Ark just to make it a bigger draw. But so far, like anecdotally, I don't see evidence that they're bringing in a ton of people. I don't
And
know.
you said they haven't released attendance?
Not publicly. They keep saying our attendance is great to the media, but they haven't
Donald
released
Trump
numbers.
keeps saying his taxes are
Exactly.
amazing. Did you ever wait tables as a...
I never did, but I did work at.
That actually doesn't surprise me. You don't seem like you'd be a very good
I
waiter.
worked at like a golf course behind the counter. I worked selling
La-di-da.
newspapers over the phone. I had some weird jobs, but I didn't do waiter.
All I can think about is like, oh, they're going to bring restaurants here and it's going to be these people who go see Ark Encounter. I don't know. Like anybody who's ever waited tables knows that the worst shift in all of serverdom,
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, afternoon, the church crowd comes in and they are the pits. They're terrible tippers. They leave chit tracks. And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, if you took a job at like the TGI Fridays in Williamstown, all it is like self-righteous people who like leave you little notes about how much Jesus loves you and that's your tip.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not bringing my restaurant there. I'll tell you that right now.
I've heard that from many people that the tips suck on Sunday afternoons. And I should also point out
And all
this is one
separate
of those just a dick move on top of all of this, which is that the deal that Ken Ham and his people, our Answers in Genesis, has with the city. These employees that they hire, the young earth creationists, janitors that they hire too, 2% of their paycheck goes back to Ark Encounter.
Fuck.
Because that's
come
part of
on.
the deal.
Are you kidding?
No.
That doesn't sound legal either.
Nope, to help them pay off the loans.
Are there repercussions
For
for the Answers in Genesis people if they don't meet expectations? Are there repercussions to them?
no, not that I can see.
Cool,
I mean,
cool,
they
cool, cool,
they
cool,
have
cool,
junk
cool,
bonds,
cool, cool.
like $62 million, I think, in junk bonds that they bought
I
from.
do not know what a junk bond is.
I don't either, and so I'm not gonna get
mean
into
to call
detail.
you out.
Like they're called TIFs, but like they have $62 million that they got basically from the city to build this. That the city was hoping that was an investment for them. If you know better than us, please chime in.
They
Listeners, yeah. And anyway,
But like when
Grant
you
County
guys,
gave up a lot.
when you tell
to
me what
get
junk
this.
bonds are, like say it like you're talking to a fourth grader.
Yes, that's for me too. All right, I'm moving on to a different story.
Okay.
This is a short one.
Okay.
It's just funny. Joel Osteen, the pastor in Texas.
I heard about this, the Longhorns thing.
Yeah, his kid graduated
for the record,
from
you
college.
guys, Hemant just super did the wrong hand gesture immediately. You did hang loose.
No, I didn't. That was a mistake.
I know. That's what I'm making fun of, because you made a mistake.
Joel
That's
Osteen,
sort of my jam.
the pastor, the megachurch pastor, who's always smiling.
His
Kid
face
graduated. Kid graduated from college.
Congratulations, young Osteen.
UT Austin. And when they graduated, Joel and his wife Victoria posted on Twitter pictures with their son, and they were doing, what is it, the pinky finger and index finger up.
It's a Texas Longhorns thing.
And so they're like, yeah, Texas Longhorns.
Also, incidentally, the devil thing.
And that's what everyone, their commenters on Facebook and Twitter were like, what is that gesture you're making?
Okay, here's what I think
This is evil, Joel. What are you doing?
Can we talk about the narrow margin of people who are going to get mad about this, right? So, okay, you take all of the population, and then you narrow it down to people who care about Joel Osteen. So, like, that's narrowed down. And then you're narrowing that down further to people who, like, don't live in Texas or the South who would, like, get that. And then you're narrowing it down further to people who have never heard of the Longhorns thing, and further, who have never heard of the Longhorns thing, don't get what it's all about, care about Joel Osteen, and care enough to get mad about this thing. Like, that's such a tiny segment of the population, and they're so loud.
They are.
Ugh, I'm glad our people don't yell at us when we screw up all the time.
Yeah, that's what we get for having no listeners. Thank you, 4 of you.
Hey, it's 15. They're counting themselves now.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. You guys are awesome.
Oh, everybody's been so nice. I literally said to Mike, my husband, tonight, I was like, people have been really nice to me on the internet, and it's not something I'm used to dealing with. I don't know if I like it yet.
It was really funny seeing Joel Osteen post that and then read the replies on Twitter. Because, yes, you have Christians who are like, we get it, congratulations.
Are people just trolling?
No, I don't think so. I think some of them were genuinely serious. Like, what is this sign you're making? And then you have Christians chiming in like, dude, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
It was amusing. All right, let's talk about this serious one because I don't want to avoid it. The Manchester bombing that happened with Ariana Grande concert. I want to raise a couple aspects of this story that I haven't seen covered too much in the media because they actually are worried about the event itself and the bombing. Couple things. First of all, when this happened, it happened in our time, like I think, late at night, 6-ish, 7-ish at night. But
that's not late. Who are
not
you?
late. It happened late over there.
Late over there. It was like 10 o'clock over there, so it was like 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Whatever the time difference was, it took a few hours before they figured out who the bomber was or what exactly happened.
What they're affiliated with.
And
they still don't know, do they?
They don't know. I think ISIS claimed responsibility, but they claimed responsibility for a lot of stuff. You know what I meant to say? They didn't know what happened. They didn't know it was a suicide bomber for at least a few hours after the bombing occurred. And then once they figured that out, we didn't know the name of the guy or the motivation for a little while, but you could probably make assumptions there. But here's what I want to bring up. After the bombing occurred and people knew about it, to when they realized what exactly had happened, we posted something on our website that said, look, this looks
There's a bombing.
bad. There is a bombing. And what we posted on our site, this is by one of our writers, David, he said, look, people are on Twitter were so quick to blame Muslims and say nasty things about Muslims in the immediate aftermath of this. So I get where that's coming from. You see a bombing at a big event. Sure, you assume it's terrorism and you assume it's Islamic terrorism. I get that. What David pointed out, and I thought rightly so, is that for all these people who claim to be skeptics, and because these weren't just random trolls online, there were a lot of people, even readers on our site, who were chiming and saying, of course they're Muslim. Of course this was a terrorist attack, and it was Islamic terror. And David's entire point is that may well be the case, but that is
it's a really dangerous
jump
thing
to that conclusion immediately. And I get if you want to think that, fine. But to jump to this conclusion that, we need to tighten up border policy. We need to, all Muslims need to condemn this. Nothing has happened yet. We don't know stuff. And I was getting backlash, but whatever. And David was getting backlash. And I don't mind the backlash, but the argument was, what do you think it is? That's not the question here.
It doesn't matter what I think.
I just thought it was
dumb
weird.
Shit all the time.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird to see so many people who claim to be skeptics not saying, I think this is what happened. What David said is, I'm going to quote him, as an advocate for secularism, I think it's important to shine a spotlight on religious beliefs when they create or justify harm. But as a critical thinker and skeptic, I think it's even more important to wait until the evidence comes in before jumping to that conclusion and then doing whatever the hell you do with that information. Totally reasonable to me.
I think that's a really reasonable
And I think for a lot of people, they were like, they weren't having it, which is frustrating, I think, for me more than anything else. Because yes, when the information came out, that is exactly what it seems to point to.
Yeah.
That's fine. I have no problem with people using that information and saying, this is what we should do after that. Let's talk about religion and what it contributed here. Let's have that discussion, but not before we even know what happened.
Because to me, that is sort of the equivalent of like a black guy gets shot by the cops and immediately news reporters like post pictures of like a mugshot of the guy who got shot, or like a picture, you know what I mean? Like a picture of him looking menacing in some way.
He must have done something to deserve it.
And so that's like jumping to like, he clearly is a bad guy. Like it's, to me, I mean, it's obviously different situations, but it's jumping to this conclusion
Just
of
wait
like,
for the information to come in before you do that. I mean, as skeptics, as critical thinkers, no one's saying don't criticize Islam if that's the motivation for this.
Right.
And because that's a whole separate debate.
Nobody to jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
It's helping nobody.
Here's the second part of this. After we figured out, okay, this was a suicide bomber, it looks like he may have had ties to ISIS. ISIS claimed the attack. This happened either today or yesterday, Thursday, Friday. The mayor of Manchester, obviously trying to be the voice of reason, moderation here, Andy Burnham is his name. He said in a radio interview, and I'm quoting here, the message that I would want to get over, and this is how the vast majority of people will feel, this man was a terrorist, not a Muslim.
I liked it at first, and then I thought about it, and
he is a terrorist.
Sideways. I think what he should have said was, he is a terrorist. He doesn't represent all Muslims.
Yes,
or he's not representative of Islam.
Yeah, or he's not representative of the Muslims in this community. A million things you could have said, but to say he's not a Muslim? No, you can be both. You can be a terrorist.
Two things. Same thing.
And
you
a
can
Muslim.
be an atheist and an asshole.
Yes,
we do it all the time.
But yeah, you can't. This is what I think frustrates. This is where you get the whole regressive left argument online. Like, don't deny the facts here. If you want to say it wasn't representative of Islam or this guy took a perverted version of it.
Important to say.
Yes, let's have that discussion. But to dismiss it, that's stupid of the mayor to do. And I know what he's trying to do.
Of course.
I understand that. But it doesn't help anybody to dismiss what some people would call the root cause of the motivation behind what he did.
Yeah. I think...
and he's not the only one, by the way.
But do we know, like, how much... Okay, so it's, what, 10 o'clock?
Barack Obama has done that. President Bush did that.
That he's not a Muslim?
Have said some version of these weren't real Muslims. No,
it's the No True Scotsman
but
thing.
Yes, it's the No True Scotsman thing. And Mayor Bloomberg did it. David Cameron did it in Britain. Like, so this is not like this guy's the first guy to do it, but it's frustrating every time.
No, it is, and it feels like an unforced error in a lot of ways of, like, there's ways to handle this. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've had to handle this. Like, there should be, like, a playbook about this. What I think is interesting, obviously, I did not do research for this evening because I do have that old 9-to-5 grind. It was Jean's day again at work. It was fucking awesome.
Fridays.
But there were a lot of people talking about... Oh, you know, I wish people could see us when we're recording this, because I feel like part of the drinking game would be when I get so worked up, I take off my top layer. Look at my shirt. Describe my shirt.
Rainbow flag hoisted by a dinosaur.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
It's a shirt I got at Target a couple of years ago.
That is totally not what I would have expected Target selling, but okay.
They're like they're a lot more vocally trans inclusive now, but I used to live near the Target in Uptown in Chicago.
Yeah.
And they used to around Pride, because the Pride Parade went right out front. And they used to have like huge displays of like gay pride stuff. This is a men's tank top, and I bought this before I officiated my friend's gay wedding.
Tell me you wore this at the wedding.
I didn't wear it to the wedding. I wore a very smart dress to the wedding, but I did wear this getting ready with a pair of jorts and a flannel, and they made fun of me so hard. I was like, this is my best life. This is who awesome. I am tonight. Anyway, back up. So I can get worked up again.
Back to terrorism.
So what I have found extraordinarily disheartening. So obviously there's no good guys here, right? In terms of like what happened and it, like there's no good thing, and it's unfair to play like the shitty Olympics. But to me, the thing that's really been bothersome, and obviously there's all the shit that's happening with anti-Islam sentiment, and that's no good. But I've seen a couple headlines sort of noting in the headline that like Ariana Grande is known to be risque and is known to do, and I think to target a concert
and her fans too,
and her fans. So for me, an extraordinarily troubling aspect of this isn't somebody went into a mall and bombed it or went into an airport. It's they went to a place where there were going to be many, many, many young women, many of whom are you writing this time down so you can cut this out? Many young women who are there and comfortable in their bodies and expressing themselves and having fun and being independent. And I like Ariana Grande a lot. Like, she said some dumb stuff in the past. Like, there's a thing with donuts, I think. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Because I keep seeing this thing floating around that she says, I hate America, I hate Americans, or something. And it just has to do with the fact that she was like...
As in something silly she might have said at some point, which, caused this.
Right. But that's the thing, and that's honestly, I've seen that. I don't think I've seen it like floating around in the wild, but I've seen people post it like, "Oh, this came up on my wall," of like a picture of Ariana Grande, and like it's that quote, and she literally said in reference, "There's like a big fucking pile of donuts," and she was like, "I hate Americans." Like, it was a flippant, dumb thing to say. I grant you, but like
she didn't have anything to do with this. Calm down. Her
but
fans
that's the thing,
weren't the problem.
People are so quick to say, because I feel like this didn't happen. You know, at any, like when any other concerts have been bombed, nobody was like, oh, these guys' pants are too tight. So that happened. It's this.
They do when it's women, young women.
It's a finger pointing. And Ariana Grande is, I think, incredibly talented and very comfortable in her own sexuality. And like, that is 100% like her absolute right, and people are drawn to it. And
you think that's why they were going after attacking her in a way that they never would have done to other people in that situation?
I think it's twofold. I think the reason that her concert in particular was singled out is because it's very much a representation of women who are independent and embrace themselves and embrace their sexuality and are comfortable in their own skin.
Something that would make like radical Islam types really upset.
And I would say really extreme of arguably any religion. Any woman who stands on her own 2 feet and can do shit like that is an inherent threat to a patriarchal religion. Like, that's just how it works. So there's that aspect. And then there's the aspect of, how come in the wake of this awful terror attack, I'm seeing so many think pieces about, like, did Ariana Grande, like, it's variations of, like, did Ariana Grande ask for this by, like, wearing booty shorts or whatever? God. And it's just a garbage thing to say, and it's
victim blaming.
It's
specific type of victim blaming.
I don't even know
ridiculous.
if it's victim blaming. It's like pointing the finger at the weirdest thing, because I would say Ariana Grande wasn't the intended victim of this, right?
Sure.
They were targeting women who
might like her
or aspire to be like her or whatever. And so they're it's just this garbage, like, circular mentality of like, oh, women are too X, and then this happens, and yeah, they shouldn't have done this, but maybe she should have, like, not worn the sports bra. Sports bra, what is it, 1996? And talking about the Spice Girls? I don't know. Crop top, is that what kids wear? Anyway, it's
it's ridiculous.
It's just a fucking bummer, and God, to happen in Manchester, which is such a, I don't know, like, it's just like a working class sort of city in England. It's not like the center of like a huge cosmopolitan city where it's I don't know.
For what it's worth, as we're taping this today, I think Ariana Grande said she's going to return there, do a benefit concert. Good for her. That's awesome.
I think I read that she's going to pay for all the funeral costs.
I think that was a rumor. I don't think she's going to do that, but
I mean,
the benefit
I
concert
did definitely
will go
see
to
that as the headline on Facebook that I didn't click on.
I am shocked.
I know. I know.
All right, we're moving to this story, which is in the Minnesota House of Representatives.
Yeah.
This is not one that got media
I
attention.
hope I got the thing about Manchester right, because I could be wrong. I might be thinking of Manchester in the 60s. I'm sure it's great. If I got anything wrong about the city vis-a-vis whether or not it's working class, I'm really sorry. I'm doing my best. Davy Jones from Manchester. Go ahead.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I just bought all the monkeys on DVD, like the 2 series of the monk. I have a lot of time on my hands.
Nice.
Okay.
Minnesota House of Representatives. They're passing a big tax bill in the state, and a Democrat basically wanted to bring up the point that there is a tax loophole that companies can use to store their taxes or they can avoid paying taxes in the state by like offshore havens, tax havens and stuff. And what he wanted to do is to say, hey, there is an amendment we should add to this bill to make sure they can't do that. Because if they're in our state, they should pay taxes in our state.
That sounds really sensible to me.
Sensible, right?
How did that go?
This Democrat basically asked one of the Republicans who was speaking on behalf of the bill or whatever, here's what he wanted to ask her, or here's what he did ask her. Do you think benefiting people who are hiding money in Liberia is worth raising taxes on your own constituents? Saying that if you're okay with them storing it over there, we have to raise taxes on our people to make up for that
money
difference.
Needs to happen here.
Yes. So he wanted to raise that point. So he asked her this. Here is her response. I'm going to quote this one.
Am I going to hate this?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to quote the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you need to hear this in its full glory. It might be because it's late. Her name, by the way, I should say. State Rep Abigail Whelan is her name. She responded, it might be because it's late and I'm really tired.
She's Republican?
She's Republican. I'm going to take this opportunity to just share with the body something I've been grappling with over the past several months, and that is the games we play here. And I just want you to know, to the Democratic rep and the Democratic caucus, I forgive you. It is okay because I have an eternal perspective about this. Oh, wait, you're not done gasping yet. I have an eternal perspective, and I want to share that with you and with the people listening at home, that at the end of the day, when we try to reach an agreement with divided government, we win some, we lose some, nobody's really happy. But you know what? Happiness and circumstances, not what it's about. There is actual joy. There is actual joy to be found in Jesus Christ. Jesus loves you all. If you would like to get to know him, if you are listening at home or here in this room, please email me.
Or here on
call
this
me.
podcast.
Would love to talk to you about Jesus. He is the hope of this state and of this country. Abigail Whelan.
Abigail.
That didn't answer the question.
Honey.
That didn't answer the question.
No, it didn't even approach. Like, it's like that Billy Madison quote of like, you've seen that movie, right?
Yes, I have.
Finally.
Like, I'm now stupid or having listened to your answer or something like that.
Nothing you said approached anything that made sense when we're all nurse students.
Yes. And then, of course, she, with all the other Republicans, voted to protect the offshore tax havens.
Oh, well, they're the real heroes. Is there anything more passive-aggressive than telling somebody you forgive them?
Oh, man.
It's the most passive-aggressive thing any
like
human
that Democrat
could do.
didn't need to be forgiven
No,
for anything.
he wasn't apologizing, he wasn't asking for forgiveness. But like, if I was like, I forgive you.
What did I do?
Well, you know what you did.
I guess so. She forgave him for trying to make the world slightly better for
brave.
Minnesota residents.
Such a hero. Do you have on your list of things the body slamming?
Yeah, huh?
Okay, cool.
Oh, we'll talk about
All
that
right,
guy.
I just wrote Montana down because I wanted to get to that.
Let me bring up one more before we get to
Mile-stomping
Montana
rounds.
guy.
Yeah.
Gallup released a poll today. This week. They do it every 2 years. So it's a big deal when they do it. And it's about creationism and like what % of Americans actually accept creationism.
God, tell me it's 100% people believe in evolution. This is the year. This is the year.
We're not there yet, but belief in creationism, all-time low.
All right.
And by belief in creationism, I mean the way they...
Is it young Earth creationism or is that specific?
Young Earth creationism. I'm going to paraphrase here. God created us in our present form under 10,000 years ago. Do you accept that? That's the question they're asking people.
It's less than 10,000 years ago.
Is it?
It's
less?
just a
I'm saying
grammatical thing.
Sorry.
The AP, no, it's not your fault. The AP technically takes under now for figures that are less than, but I think it's a garbage thing. I'm watching you, AP.
Nice. Yes, God created man in his present form. Actually, if I'm looking at this, I don't even know if they say 10,000 years, but they do say God created us in our present form.
Okay, hit me with those stats.
Okay.
I'm saying 50%.
That are young Earth creationists, lowest ever. Lowest ever is 38%.
That wasn't that far off.
38% of Americans are creationists who believe God created us in our present. It doesn't mean young Earth, but it means they are creationists.
So 38%. Okay, run me down. Okay, I'm going to do an educated guess. By educated, I mean a glass and a half of wine guess.
Yes.
Of just run down the options, and I'm going to just write down some
options are
some figures. Okay.
God created man in present
38%.
form. 38%. The other options. Man developed evolution through evolution, but God guided the whole process.
Okay.
And the other option is...
So it's 3 options?
Yes. We developed through evolution, but God had no part in the process.
Okay, let me see. Ooh, okay. So I'm going to say 40... Okay, so I'm going to say young Earth creationist, we know is 38.
Yep.
I'm going to call 47% on a God-guided evolution thing.
Okay.
And that leaves 5, carry the 1... 2, 8. That leaves 15% believe in evolution. How close am I?
You're not that far off.
Really?
Another 38% believe in God-guided evolution, and that I think there's a little rounding errors here and stuff, but 19% accept evolution the right way, which is to say where all the evidence points
19%,
to. 19%, and that is an all-time high.
So that's 1 in 5 people believes in evolution
without God having any role in the process.
Here's the thing, Hammond. You said it's another 38, so it's 38, 38,
yep,
19.
And 19.
That doesn't feel
they
like
double us.
Good mathing. 38,
76, 96, 95. I guess the other 5% want nothing.
The other 5% just had a stroke during the question.
Yes.
Here's what I will say. Obviously, the 38 who believe in young Earth creationism, what the actual fuck?
Or old Earth creationism, yes.
Or older. You're right. I shouldn't narrow it down. What I will say, I will take a guided evolutionary stance.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
I'm not as bothered by that.
Because those guys aren't the ones saying, like, no, there's no such thing as X, because God, like, I don't believe those are the people, like, who are rabidly anti-science. I think it's that...
They're the ones who are fine with you teaching evolution
in
science class, and they just think, oh, well, God must have played... This is what Catholics believe.
Yeah.
Evolution is there, but God had a hand... I mean, sorry, I want to get this right. They don't say God, like, guided evolution per se, but Catholics accept evolution without a problem.
Sure.
Even if they think, this is all part of God's master plan or something. But here's the thing. 2 times the number of Americans, like we are doubled. The number of Americans who believe in evolution, who accept evolution, we are doubled by the number of creationists out there, which is sad.
That explains why I only have 300 Twitter followers. That was
if
a
you
dumb
were
joke.
Ken,
I'm so sorry.
If you were Ken Ham, you would clearly have
Blueberry, BLUEBURE. Follow me.
And of course, the people who went to church more often accepted the creationist view.
Yeah.
That's not surprising.
You don't fucking say.
I know. That's such a low number. Like, Europe laughs at us, and they should.
Yeah. No, none of that is great.
Yeah.
The thing is,
on a side note, as commenters have pointed out, 38% of U.S. adults are pretty much, that's Donald Trump's approval rating too.
Holy shit. That was what he ended up getting, right? Like 30...
Yeah, something.
36, something like that. He met the Pope.
He did meet the Pope.
That was an amazing
and
photo
he made sure Sean
opportunity.
Spicer could not meet the Pope.
Dude.
Just to be a
that
dick.
is cold. All right, if you all don't know, the Trump troop went to Rome, did a little stopover in the Vatican, and there was like a short list of people who would actually get to meet the Pope, like IRL, face to face with the Pope. Sean Spicer has been apparently he's Catholic.
Lifelong Catholic.
Was very vocal about wanting to, get a Pope handshake. Trump straight up shut him down. He didn't find out until the day of, and he was, I think, one of the most senior staffers who wasn't people junior to him, to Sean Spicer, were asked, who were I guess
he really is the whipping boy, kind of.
He really is. And I don't feel bad for Sean Spicer because he made that bed, and I hope he lies in it a good long while because I really like Melissa McCarthy being him on SNL. It's on hiatus now. Ugh. But anyway, I think it's a garbage thing to do. Also, what was the thing with Melania and Ivanka wearing black veils? Is that a thing you're supposed to do when you meet
I have no idea. I don't know why they wore that. It looked like funeral garb or something.
Did you see there was a picture of Melania? And it was in that, because she's literally wearing all black and a black, very dramatic.
I don't know if that's fashion or they were trying to cover up or something.
I don't know. It was very Edwardian or something. Yeah. And there was a caption that said, "Dress for the job you want, #widow." Oh, Melania, what are we going to do with you? Bless her
She'll
heart.
go back to New York. Let's talk about this Greg Gianforte guy.
Yeah.
He beat up the reporter.
Sure did.
Still got elected because a lot of that was early voting before the incident happened, so the votes were kind of in.
So I found out about this. Did it happen yesterday? 2 days ago?
Today's Friday. He got elected yesterday, Thursday night.
But all the brouhaha came out
Wednesday night.
Was it Wednesday night?
Brouhaha.
Okay, well then I found out about it Thursday afternoon because that's how I live my life. And I just Googled, because my coworker was like, "Did you hear somebody got body slammed?" And I was like, "What?" So I literally Googled body slam. And the first thing that came up was a Fox News article because 3 Fox News reporters witnessed it and wrote about it and were like, "This is fucked up." They were appalled, which...
And when Fox News is like, "Oh yeah, the reporter's story, totally right."
Yeah,
and worse, actually, than what the reporter said.
Right. Well, and I do always want to give credit where credit's due because, I will shit on Fox News all day, but, their reporters did real reporting and good for them. Mm-hmm. They could have easily just turned a blind eye to it.
Imagine if they didn't say that, because Gianforte's campaign spokesman put out a thing saying, it was his fault, he was being belligerent or whatever.
Can I read that? That was the most garbage statement ever.
He basically said it was the reporter's fault, which that's a whole controversy of itself. But Fox News, those reporters came out and said,
nah.
Their story was, no, that's not what happened.
Not even close.
So we still haven't had an apology for that statement from his campaign.
I want to read his statement because it is, obviously super victim blaming, obviously, because that's kind of their whole goal. Although they've admitted this is a lie, defense is important. The things even their justification for what happened.
Yeah.
Even if you take that as gospel, even that's all right, dude, you still fucking overreacted. Let me find it. Tonight is Greg Greg is the Gianforte, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Greg Gianforte.
Was given a separate interview in a private office. The Guardian's Ben Jacobs entered the office without permission, aggressively shoved a recorder in Greg's face, and began...
Carry on.
Don't try to one-up me with your fancy recordings. Mm-hmm. And aggressively shoved a recorder in Greg's face and began asking badgering questions. So, first of all, what I'm hearing is a guy walked into a room, held a recorder to somebody, and asked a question. Those are just
what sort of reporter is this?
I'm just imagining him poking him in the face with this recorder. Jacobs was asked to leave. After asking Jacobs to lower the recorder, Jacobs declined. Greg, I don't know why they keep first naming him. Greg then attempted
It's his campaign, that's why.
Oh. Greg, because he's really folksy and his name's Greg, then attempted to grab the phone that was pushed in his face. This person is earning their English degree. Yeah. Pushed in his face, Jacobs grabbed Greg's wrist and spun away from Greg, pushing them both to the ground. What is that? It's unfortunate that this aggressive behavior from a liberal journalist created this scene at our campaign volunteer barbecue. There's so much to unpack here. Even reading the story verbatim from their campaign, Greg still comes off as like the dick bag here.
And that was the sanitized
That was
version.
like the best they could spin it.
Yeah.
It was a garbage story.
And all the reporting goes against all that. Besides all of that, because if anyone's following politics, like you've heard that now.
Yeah.
And he won, and then he gave this apology only after he won, whatever. Let's talk about, okay, where do you go from this point forward? Because politics folks can talk about...
You get out of politics because you can't beat people up and then pretend to be a representative of the people. We need to stop accepting
you're a
this.
Republican.
No, Heaven, no. This is garbage. We need to stop We need to stop accepting this kind of garbage from our representatives and pretending it's okay and pretending
I didn't vote
I'm not
for the guy.
yelling at you, Hemet. I'm yelling at men.
Oh, okay, then.
No, it's just this garbage thing of like these like fucking old white guys in power can do anything and stay in power and see no consequences to their
Republicans.
actions.
No, I mean that's the argument.
You're right.
If a Democrat did this, doesn't matter who it is.
Because liberals hold people responsible for things sometimes. It's just this garbage thing that like men can like trip over their own dick into somebody's pussy. I'm sorry I said that. I'm so sorry. But they can literally do anything and they'll be apologized for even though they're the quote unquote party of family values. They're the party of Christian people, but they can do anything.
One of the few honest things Donald Trump said is, I could stand off. If they ever shoot someone, they would still vote for me.
He's right. And this is supposed to be the morality party. Are you kidding me with
values.
this? This man assaulted another person and was elected into office the next day.
What
this man is a
me,
dangerous person and he shouldn't be representing any. I'm sorry, I'm going to wake up your baby again.
What really worries me is if that's what he did to a stranger, I wonder what he does to people who like are close to him.
10 out of 10 chance this man has like abused a spouse or significant other. 10 out of 10.
So he's going to be
on the record.
Allegedly.
No. 10 out of 10 chance.
I'm
going to get sued.
You are going to get I'm not part of this podcast.
Hey, listen, when you look it up on iTunes, yours is the only name attached to it. So good luck with that, motherfucker.
Now that this guy is going to be in Congress, let's talk about a couple of these policy things. Because he's a social conservative. He made no mistake of this. Let's talk specifically about the evolution science stuff.
Okay, just really quick. Is he a state?
No, he's the congressman.
Oh, he's the congressman.
He is the congressman.
What?
Montana gets one. He is the one in the House. They have two senators. I think one of them is Democrat.
Where's he from? He's not from Missoula. He's probably from like Bozeman or some shit.
I think Bozeman, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Take that, Bozeman. You burnt.
This is a guy who
is a garbage trash
is a Christian. His family gave money to one of these shittier creation museums.
As opposed to the really high-end ones.
The expensive,
the zhuzhy ones.
As opposed to the expensive one in Kentucky. The Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum.
Oh.
It's a local creation museum. He gave money to that. He actually, because he is a tech billionaire.
So you want to give your money to shitty museums, but not to like
real museums.
Hungry children.
Yeah. This is what he does with the money.
They know what they did.
He gave a commencement address at Montana Tech, which is a good school in Montana. He gave a commencement a couple years ago, and students protested the hell out of it because this is a guy who is anti-science.
Good for them.
Like, they knew this guy. He said many times, I want schools to teach the controversy, that sort of thing. My favorite, though, is he did an interview just last month because, he's trying to do some interviews and he didn't beat up this reporter.
Oh, good for him.
But at one point, she asked him about evolution and she asked him point blank, it's a woman, after she pointed out, your family has given money to that Glendive Museum. Do you personally believe in evolution? Yes, I know we don't like the word believe. Do you accept evolution? Whatever. Do you believe in evolution? And his response is, I personally believe that God created the earth. Then she followed up. Okay, but do you believe personally in evolution? This kind of goes back to is it God guided or not? He says, I believe God created the earth. I wasn't there. I don't know how long it took.
You weren't?
But I look around, I think God created the earth. And so she added one more time. And so evolution is not something that you believe in?
Good for her.
To which he said, I think I've answered your question. Like, no, you didn't.
You know what's funny, Hammett, is I wasn't there when they signed the Declaration of Independence, so I'm kind of agnostic as to
Yeah, I
whether or not
know.
it happened.
It's only on Evolution that they're like, I
did
wasn't
not
there.
see JFK get shot, so I'm pretty sure, or Elvis
He's
died.
still alive.
So
He's still
both
alive.
of those. Hammett, here's what you need to know about me. If I don't witness a thing with my eyeballs, how can we know? I wasn't there, Hammett.
And based on the way the Republicans do
wasn't there.
science,
Jesus probably
they're
did
gonna
rise from the grave.
They'll probably put this guy on the science committee.
Oh, God, what the
Like, because that's what they do.
These are garbage humans running our garbage country. That's going to be on a billboard when...
And by the way, the question wasn't, do you think, like, God created the earth? No one asked him that.
I don't care,
That's actually irrelevant to the point, which is, do you accept, like, what science tells you? And he totally didn't answer that question. He's just like, God created the earth. I answered your question. Like, that doesn't answer it. And that's the Ken Ham, I wasn't there, therefore anything goes.
This man
That's not how science works.
Why wasn't he arrested, Hammond? Why are there no...
He has to show up in court soon.
Why are there no consequences for anybody's actions? If you're an old rich
Are you
white guy...
a Republican white guy?
No.
All right,
and
then.
that's why
Now
there's
you
no
know the answer.
consequences for my action. Probably. I haven't seen them yet, but I assume they're coming. I'm just kidding. I live in consequences all the time. No, this is garbage. I hate
But
that
this
guy.
is a guy who's probably going to be on the science. Like, he is their congressman.
He's a garbage person.
Even if he's not on the science committee, he gets a say in this stuff. And he doesn't accept science. Another one. Like, we didn't need another one of these people. And I know it's Montana. I know, like, he was probably going to win anyway,
let's not
even
drag
without
Montana down with this. Montana's an excellent state, which employed me for 2 years.
which voted for an assaulting conservative.
Yeah, but
guy.
they were nice to me personally. So,
okay. While we're on this subject, Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education,
Christ. Doesn't she have a really ugly house? Is that a headline I saw?
I do not know.
Okay, I'm going to look it up while you talk.
But she showed up on I think she was part of a House appropriation subcommittee. She was answering some questions about like funding and things like that. And so people wanted to know, this is specifically Representative Catherine Clark from Massachusetts. She wanted to know, like, the point she wanted to make is that there are schools, private Christian schools, that are getting federal money. And they're doing it through, whether it's on the state level or whatever, but they get state funds through vouchers. Mm-hmm. And the question this representative wanted to ask is, like, is it okay if these private schools discriminate against certain types of students? Because these Christian schools will say, if you're openly gay, no, we don't want you. Obviously, if you're not part of our religion, we don't want you. And so the question this representative wanted to ask was, will you stand up, Betsy DeVos, and say that this school, getting federal money or state money or whatever, should be open to all students? Which is a fair question. If you're getting money from taxpayers, shouldn't you only give that to schools that are open to everybody? Right. Or at least there's some good reason why it may not be.
And
you know what I
bet
mean?
She was like, you know what, you're right. If a school is getting publicly funded, I believe that they shouldn't discriminate because that would be against the Constitution.
Course.
And I would hate for that to happen under my watchful eye.
Of course, that's not what she said.
Come on. Give me a
what
win.
got really weird, though, is that it got even, like, knowing that when the
Look
representative...
Look at the tacky house she's moving into.
Interesting. That's a lot of levels.
Yeah. Guys, look at her house.
I don't even think that's ugly. That's just a big house.
Oh, I think it's just ostentatious.
Go
ahead.
They asked her, like, okay, would you be okay with the school letting... would you let taxpayer money go to a school that discriminates against LGBT people? And she's just like, well,
she's
like,
I've never met a gay person. It doesn't affect me.
It's all about school choice. Parents can choose where their kids go, blah, blah, blah. And then the representative, like, chimes back, like, well, what about if they were African-American students? Like, this is not something Christians do, but if they did, like, where do you draw the line?
Maybe not this decade, but...
Yes, exactly. Where do you draw the line is what they wanted to know. Like, when is it okay for them to discriminate? When is it not? She wouldn't answer the question. And the Representative Clark actually said after all this, I am shocked that you cannot come up with one example of discrimination where you would stand up for students.
Because they firmly believe in discrimination.
Yes, if it's based on your faith, anything goes.
To be honest, I think that... Like, yeah, they'll say it's based on their faith, but I would argue most of these people would say that they have the right to discriminate on their own. Like, I own this store or whatever, so I have the right to decide who comes in or not, which is true to an extent, but they are completely fine.
I think you're right in the general. I haven't heard that with the schools so much, and I think most Christians are, even the evangelicals who are conservatives, even they seem to have lines on some stuff, but homosexuality, definitely one of the controversial points. Race, they're pretty good about now. But like, that's the thing. It's where do you draw the line when it comes to taxpayer money? And I think for a lot of liberals, it's if you're getting taxpayer money, you shouldn't be able to discriminate on these issues.
Well, and I also wish people more frequently would say, hey, if this is an okay thing to do to fund these Catholic schools, these Christian schools with vouchers, I'm gonna go ahead and fund my Islamic school or whatever. Like, I wish that happened a lot more because people wouldn't be good with that.
It does happen, but it's so rare. And so you're right. Like
and I would argue, like,
if a Muslim school was doing this, I wonder what conversation we'd be having.
And I would say, like, this reporter I think was asking great questions, but I would love for somebody to ask, like, okay, it's all about school choice, right? It's all about this, and it's all about religious freedom. Okay. Is it okay for a Muslim private school that's getting government funds to discriminate against Christians? Because I bet she'd change her fucking tune right quick.
Right. I want to end on a high note. Finally. We have one happy story. Last December, we learned that Utah, its Democratic Party, had actually approved a secular caucus within the Democratic Party.
Okay.
And all that really means is that...
You're using "we learned" pretty loosely, because I certainly did not learn that.
Like, and it's a Utah Democratic Party.
2016 or
2016. Okay. Like, if you're a Utah Democrat, you're kind of in the minority already, so you don't hear much about Utah Democrats as a party. But basically, they said, okay, we'll approve a secular caucus. So the people who are members of that caucus, they kind of have a seat at what the Democratic Party supports and promotes, and we want our candidates to say, and that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
So I had written about that and saying, hey, this thing happened. And it turned out one of the people paying attention or who had seen that one,
there's got to be one out there.
There's got to be somebody, was Scott Pryor. And Scott was actually someone who ran for the Arizona State Senate, I believe.
Oh, dope.
And he lost in November, but whatever. And he'd actually, I think, tried, this is his third time running for that seat in a red area.
Yeah.
So he lost anyway. So he's trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Do I try running again? Because I think Democrats need a good candidate to vote for, and I want to be that guy. His wife, too, Kara Pryor, had also run for, I think, the state house for the third time or something, and she had lost, too. So they're both trying to figure out, what do we do? And again,
Novembers are rough months in that household.
I know, and but they kind of knew it, like in the sense that it's a red area, but they want to.
Good for them.
They want to run. They should run, right? And they did it as open atheists, too, which is kind of awesome. Anyway, he saw that thing that happened in Utah. He's like, that's neat. Why don't we have that in Arizona?
Oh, awesome.
They formed a secular caucus in Arizona, and they just got approved this week.
Oh, great.
So the Arizona Democratic Party now has a secular caucus. And again, I think my initial reaction is that is awesome. But like, okay, but what can they really do?
Doesn't matter.
Here's what they can do, though. Like, there are so many things where church-state separation is an issue, where the voice of this growing number of non-religious people, there are some concerns we have about anti-discrimination stuff, church-state separation issues.
We know what we're concerned about. You don't need to.
They will have a seat at the table to help shape the party platform and really policies. Excellent. That is an amazing thing. So anyway, if you, we'll post in our show notes links if you're in the state and you want to get involved.
Yeah.
Because they have to, I think, formally like choose their board or whatever.
Yeah, email us. Tell us all about it.
November.
I would love to hear about it.
But yeah, so they have a thing. That's a really neat thing. There's no reason, by the way, this can't happen in other states.
Are we going to make a caucus in Illinois?
Good luck.
Do I have to be elected to office?
No. No.
Okay. All right. This is looking a little brighter.
I think the hard part is just making sure you're following the rules of the Democratic Party. In theory, it could work for the Republican Party too, but it's not going to. But in theory, make sure you're following whatever the rules are for getting a caucus approved. And then the party has to approve it to make sure like they're not approving anybody. But yeah, this is that's a good move. I want to see this happen in more places. And we talk about, we wish we had a seat at the table in politics.
Yeah.
And yes, one way to do it is to get elected officials out there doing it. That's a hard sell, as we all know.
I just thought of an idea.
But this is a good way to do it.
Hammett. On our Patreon page, if we get a certain threshold, we should make you run for local office.
That's a horrible...
I would be your campaign manager. I own so many blazers now. I'd be so great. I could write your speech, professional writer. Hammett, I think we should cheers to the first piece of good news we've ever had on this dumb podcast.
Boom.
You're supposed to drink.
Oh,
Hammett, you're so bad at wine.
Warm wine.
Warm Riesling. There's people out here who think my warm Riesling joke is really funny. They don't occupy this room presently.
That's why there's just silence.
just silence hanging over here. Cubs are losing.
Of course they are.
I didn't realize that. Has that TV been on the whole time?
Have
you been watching TV while I've been talking? Because it's really rude,
I actually haven't.
sir.
This is the first I saw the score.
Okay.
All right. I got nothing. There are more stories, but I'm like, all right, screw it. If we get through those, that's
tired.
enough. Thanks for listening. We do have, I'm going to say, I think next week, I will try to midweek. We have one more interview that in the bag that we haven't posted yet. I hope you got a chance to listen to the one with Maggie Rowe, which we posted last week, which awesome story, an interesting story. We have one more, which is with you've heard of the Church of Scientology. There's a guy who runs it, though, called David Miscavige. His dad, Ron Miscavige, has left the church.
He was on Leah Remini's
yes, he was.
show.
The show, yeah. He was on there. He's been talking a lot about the church, and he spoke to me about it. It's one of these interviews where I don't think I said like a damn word in the entire thing. It's just tell me your stories. Say. Yeah. So we'll post that soon.
Hammond, you kind of lied to our listener because we have 2 interviews backed up because the other one is the dumb thing I did with my brother. That's
right. That's coming afterwards.
That's like in the pipeline for when we can't record a week and we're like, shit, we need to just get something out there.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know how good it was. It doesn't matter. It's free. Cool. Thank you guys for listening. Hey, thank you. People have been super active on like Twitter and stuff like that recently.
We like your messages.
Yeah,
they're always entertaining.
I really enjoy it when I'm sitting in my cubicle. I just read it. And to be honest, it's when I sneak to the bathroom and camp out there for like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, Twitter. That's gross. I'm sorry I told you guys that.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. Hammond's his dumb name. Everybody hates it. It's boring. It's not a nickname their friend gave them when they were 16.
That's what my email address is. No, that's one I chose when I was probably 14. I haven't changed it.
You had Gmail when you were 14?
I had AOL, but it was the same email address.
You just evolved it? So
thanks for listening. If you like what you're listening to, patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast. Thank you for those of you who are there.
We'll
actually, once I think the next month starts, we'll go ahead and start with the rewards and stuff.
Yeah, we're going to do rewards. We're going to make Hammond, if you missed our last episode, I think we're going to have, so if we hit a certain goal, we're going to make Hammond participate in pop culture for the first time in his sad life. And so we're going to make him watch Star Wars, which is ironic because I don't super care for Star Wars, but I just think it's really funny to make him do that. So we're going to have my husband sit in who loves Star Wars. So we'll have somebody who has something to say about it. So please go on, donate. Friendly Atheist. Nope. Patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast.
There you go.
It's not brief, but it's memorable. My Etsy shop is Bitches Get Stitched Done. You have a blog, right? What's it called?
Oh, right. Hey, friendlyatheist.com. Thanks for reading.
I've not heard of it. What else is happening in our lives?
Nothing else.
It's Memorial Day weekend. Do you take holidays?
No.
Do you have weekends?
I haven't taken a day off in years from blogging.
Yeah, but you got to sit on your couch a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested that if we hit a certain goal, we have to make you wear a blazer and heels when you start writing.
Who the hell said
Because
that?
I was complaining that
because I don't have a work uniform or something?
You made a really crude, I would say, joke about how you could type naked. And I'm like, no, I have to wear like a fucking blazer and heels. And someone's like, I think Hammond should have to do that too. And frankly, sir, I agree.
Veto.
No, I don't think that's how this works. This is a democracy? Question mark. Okay, thank you guys for listening. It's been so fun hearing back from you. Friendly Atheist podcast at gmail.com if you want to send us a note for me to read during my workday. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.